The last transmission. The stars were quiet that night in deep space. Captain Rafe Kellen sat in his chair aboard the salvage ship Ironclad, sipping bitter black coffee. Most nights were the same. Long stretches of silence broken only by the hum of the engines, but tonight, something broke that silence. A loud, distorted sound came through the comm system. At first it was just static, then a voice cracked, panicked, and heavy with fear. "This is colony ship, Haven Reach. If anyone hears this, we're under attack." The voice cut off, replaced by strange background noise. It wasn't static this time. It was a low growl, deep and unnatural. Then the same voice returned, screaming, "It's not human, it's like a wolf but bigger, faster. It's hunting us. Oh God, it's here." The transmission ended in a sharp burst of static. The crew of the Ironclad froze. Rafe turned in his chair, meeting the eyes of his second-in-command, Jonas Reeve. "You heard that?" Jonas nodded slowly. "I wish I didn't." Rafe tapped the console, pulling up the signal source. It was coming from the far edge of a dead star system, a place no ship had any reason to visit. The system had no habitable planets, no mining operations, no traffic, and yet, that's where the Haven Reach was. Against his better judgment, Rafe ordered a course change. The Ironclad turned toward the dark system. The jump would take hours, and in that time the crew whispered about what they'd heard. Some joked nervously about space werewolves, others stayed silent, eyes on the floor. When they arrived, the colony ship was there, drifting in darkness. Its massive hull was torn open in several places. From a distance, it looked like the work of a meteor strike, but as they moved closer, the damage was different. Long, curved gashes ripped into the metal, as if something had clawed at it. "No heat signatures," Jonas reported, scanning the wreck. "No life signs either. At least, not human." Rafe ordered the salvage team to suit up. They crossed the gap between the ships, their boots clanging on the colony ship's hull. The breach was wide enough to walk through. Inside, their helmet lights cut through the darkness. It was cold, silent, and smelled faintly of burnt metal. The corridors were empty. No bodies, no blood. But there were marks, deep scratches along the walls. Some sections of the floor had paw-shaped dents burned into the metal. The shape was unmistakable. For toes, a wide pad, and claws like razors. Jonas crouched, running a gloved hand over one of the prints. "This isn't possible," he muttered. "Wolves don't travel in space." As they moved deeper, the air grew colder. Their breath fogged inside their helmets. Every sound, the creak of the ship, the hiss of their suits felt louder. Then, over the comm, a faint sound came through. It was distant. A long, low howl. The sound cut into Rafe's bones. It didn't sound like any animal from Earth. "Tell me that's feedback," one of the crew whispered. No one answered. They reached the main cargo hold. The massive room was lit only by emergency lights, flickering dimly. Crates were smashed open, equipment scattered. In the center of the hold, they found something chilling. A large steel door, bent inward as if forced open from the outside. Inside the broken door was a smaller chamber. Along the walls were deep scratches, layered on top of each other, and in the middle, a human helmet, cracked in half. The visor was smeared with something dark and dried. Jonas swallowed hard. Whatever did this, it wasn't here for cargo. Rafe didn't reply. His eyes were on the far wall, where strange marks had been burned into the metal. 3 parallel lines crossed by a jagged slash. It looked deliberate, like a symbol. As he stepped closer to examine it, the comms crackled again. This time it wasn't a human voice. It was a deep, rumbling growl that rose into a howl. The sound seemed to echo inside his skull. Half the crew flinched, one of them muttering a curse under their breath. "Back to the ship," Rafe ordered. They moved quickly, the unease growing with every step. When they reached the airlock, Jonas stopped. "Captain, look, outside." Across the colony ship's hull, faint scorch marks curved in long arcs. The lines were too even to be random. They formed a trail, leading away from the ship and into open space, as if something had leaped away and vanished. Back aboard the Ironclad, Rafe replayed the last transmission. The scream, the words, the howl. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the starless void beyond the glass. Whatever this alien wolf was, it had hunted the Haven Reach, and if Lena's warning from the transmission was true, it could be hunting them next. The survivor. The Ironclad stayed locked to the dead colony ship. Rafe knew leaving without searching every section would haunt him. If there was even one survivor, they had to find them. The salvage crew split into two teams. Rafe led the first team toward the engineering deck. Jonas took the second toward the crew quarters. The corridors were dim and silent. Only the emergency lights flickered along the walls, casting long shadows that seemed to move when no one was looking. Rafe's helmet scanner beeped faintly. A small, unstable heat source ahead. It was faint, but it was there. They moved cautiously, stepping over fallen panels and broken tools. The heat signature led them to a sealed maintenance shaft. The hatch was covered with deep claw marks. Something had tried to get in. And failed. Rafe knelt beside the hatch and knocked. "Anyone in there?" "This is Captain Rafe Kellen of the Ironclad." For a moment, nothing, then a weak, shaking voice came through the metal. "You're human." Rafe glanced at his crew. "Yes. We're here to get you out." There was a pause. Then the sound of something heavy sliding away inside the shaft. The hatch opened just enough for a pale face to appear. She was young, maybe in her 20s, with dark hair matted to her forehead. Her eyes were wide and bloodshot from lack of sleep. She gripped a wrench like a weapon, her knuckles white. "I'm Lena," she said, her voice trembling. "They're all dead. It killed them all." Rafe helped her out. Her jumpsuit was torn, smeared with grease and something darker. She kept glancing over her shoulder. Even here, inside the Ironclad, she seemed like she expected something to jump out at her. Jonas's team arrived, and they moved back toward the airlock. On the way, Rafe asked, "What happened here?" Lena's voice was uneven. "It came during our hyperspace jump. We thought it was an impact. Then we heard it. The howl." She swallowed hard. "At first we thought it was some kind of boarding. But it wasn't. It was hunting us." Rafe frowned. "A wolf." Her eyes locked on his. "Not a wolf. Not from Earth. Bigger, smarter." She tightened her grip on the wrench. It could move through the dark like it wasn't even there. It tore through the doors like paper. It didn't just kill, it stalked. It wanted us to run. Back aboard the Ironclad, Lena sat in the mess hall, drinking water like she hadn't had any in days. The crew watched her carefully. Some were skeptical, others clearly shaken by her story. Jonas asked the question on everyone's mind. "Why you? How did you survive?" Lena looked down. "I locked myself in the maintenance shaft. It couldn't reach me there, but it stayed. For hours, it knew I was inside. It scratched at the hatch. Over and over. It was waiting for me to come out." Rafe leaned forward. "You said it hunted you during hyperspace." Lena nodded quickly. "It follows ships by heat and sound. If you've heard the howl, it means it already knows where you are." The mess hall went silent. Every crew member exchanged glances. Rafe didn't want to believe her, but he remembered that sound, that low, impossible howl echoing through the empty corridors of the colony ship. Lena set down her water and stared at the deck. "It won't stop," she whispered. "It'll hunt you across systems. It doesn't get tired, it doesn't forget, and once it chooses you, you don't escape." The crew stayed quiet. Then a loud metallic clang rang through the hull. Everyone froze. It had come from the outer airlock. Jonas stood slowly. "That wasn't us." Rafe's voice was low and steady. "Seal the doors. Full lockdown. If she's right, we're already being hunted." The first sign the Ironclad was sealed tight. Every outer hatch was locked. Every bulkhead door shut. Rafe stood on the bridge with Jonas, watching the sensor screens. Outside, the colony ship drifted in silence, its dark hull like a floating tomb. For the first hour, nothing happened. The only sounds were the steady hum of the engines and the quiet beeps of the systems. Some of the crew began to relax. Maybe, they thought, Lena's story was only fear and shock. Then the lights flickered, just for a second, but enough to make everyone look up. Jonas tapped the control panel. No power drop, no faults. "That's strange." In the mess hall, Lena sat alone. Her eyes darted to the ceiling as the flicker passed. She knew that pattern. It happened on the Haven Reach, just before the first attack. Rafe ordered a full systems check. Everything looked normal, but the unease didn't fade. 2 hours later, the strange noise started. It came over the comms faint, distant, a low, slow rumble, like a growl. One of the engineers turned in his seat. "Captain, is that coming from the wreck?" Rafe listened closely. It wasn't from the wreck. It was on their own comm frequency. Someone, or something, was transmitting directly to them. The growl lasted 5 seconds. Then cut off. Silence followed. Jonas stared at the captain. That was not human? Rafe tried to trace the signal, but it was like chasing smoke. No origin, no coordinates. It could have been from a meter away or a million kilometers. Later, During the night shift, one of the crew reported scratches on the outer airlock door. At first, Rafe assumed it was debris from the colony ship, but when they checked the security feed, the footage showed nothing. One frame. The door was clean. The next frame, deep claw marks were etched into the metal. No movement, no approach. Just there. That's when the whispers started. The crew spoke quietly in the corridors. Some said the alien wolf could turn invisible. Others claimed it could move between dimensions. Lena stayed silent. She knew the truth was worse. It didn't need to hide. It could simply choose when to be seen. By the third day, the tension was breaking. People were snapping at each other over small things. Sleep was hard. Some claimed they heard scratching in the walls at night. Others swore they heard paws on the deck plates. But every time Rafe checked, there was nothing there. That changed during the morning inspection. Jonas was walking the maintenance deck when he froze. On the far wall, lit by the dim emergency lights, was a mark. 3 deep claw lines slashed across the metal, and below them, the jagged slash symbol Rafe had seen on the colony ship. Jonas called the captain immediately. Rafe stood in front of the mark, his jaw tight. "It's the same," he said quietly. Lena stepped forward. "That's how it tells you you're next." Before Rafe could reply, the bridge alarm blared. They ran back, the crew shouting over each other. One of the outer hull cameras had caught movement, a shadow, huge and fast, sliding along the side of the ship. It moved in a blur, too quick for the auto track to follow. The footage froze on one frame. The shape was lean, long-legged. Its head was wolf-like but sharper, the muzzle lined with serrated teeth, and its eyes burning orange. Even in the dark, no one spoke for a long moment. Then the cum crackled. Again. This time, there was no growl. It was a howl, long, deep, and filled with something that wasn't just hunger. It was a promise. Lena's voice was almost a whisper. "It knows you've seen it. Now it won't stop." The hunt begins. The ironclad was running on full lockdown. Outer lights dimmed, engines steady, and weapons primed. Rafe ordered the crew to prepare for a hyperspace jump. If they could make the leap, maybe they could shake the alien wolf off their trail. Jonas sat at navigation. "Course is ready. We're jumping in 60 seconds. Rafe nodded. "Do it." The jump drive began to charge. The deck thrummed with deep vibrations. Lena stood near the back of the bridge, gripping the doorway. Her eyes never left the view outside. That's when the first impact hit. A loud metallic clang echoed through the ship. The whole deck shuddered. "Something's on the hull," a crewman shouted, before Rafe could give an order. Another impact came harder. Warning lights flashed red across the consoles. Hull pressure fluctuated in 3 different sections. The thing was moving fast. Jonas switched the cameras. On one feed, the alien wolf appeared for less than a second. It was clinging to the hull. Claws sunk deep into the plating. Its fur was dark silver, glowing faintly as if lit from within. Then it vanished in a blur. "Where did it go?" Rafe demanded. "No idea. It's not staying in one place," Jonas replied. A loud screech tore through the cums, the sound of metal ripping. The wolf was testing the armor, dragging its claws along the hull like a blade on bone. "Keep charging the drive," Rafe barked, but Lena's voice cut through. "If you jump now, it will follow." The howl means it's locked onto you, as if to prove her point. The howl came again, louder this time. It rattled the glass on the bridge. Every crew member froze at the sound. It wasn't just noise, it was in their heads, a deep pulse, like a predator marking its prey. "Jump in 5, 4, 3. Jonas started. The ship lurched violently. The wolf slammed into the port side, crushing a section of the hull plating. Air hissed out into space before emergency seals kicked in. One crewman was thrown to the floor. Another's console exploded in sparks. "Cancel the jump," Rafe ordered. If the wolf tore through the hull mid-jump, the ship would rip itself apart. The alien wolf appeared again on a camera feed. This time, it was clear its body was built for speed and power, for massive legs, each ending in claws that glowed like heated metal. A long tail lashed behind it for balance, and its eyes, bright orange fire burning in the dark. It stared directly at the camera before leaping away. Suddenly, the wolf slammed onto the bridge viewport. Glass cracked under its weight. Its massive jaws opened, revealing rows of sharp, uneven teeth. The crew fired pulse rifles through the reinforced glass. Blue energy blasts lit up the bridge. The wolf recoiled but didn't fall. It only snarled, its hot breath steaming against the glass. Then, in one sudden move, it pushed off into the darkness. Silence fell. No impacts, no movement, only the heavy breathing of the crew. Rafe gripped the arm of his chair. It's not trying to kill us outright, he said slowly. Jonas frowned. Then what is it doing? Lena answered, her voice shaking. It's marking you, Captain. You're the one it wants now. Her words hit the bridge like a blade. The crew looked at Rafe, then at each other. Jonas muttered, that symbol we saw. It's a claim mark, isn't it? Lena nodded. It means it won't stop until one of you is dead. Outside, in the vast black of space, a faint shadow moved along the edge of the ship's lights. The alien wolf was still there, watching, waiting, and the hunt had truly begun. Asterisk. The legend of the Star Wolf. The ironclad floated in the cold black, engines on low power, weapons armed. No one on board spoke louder than a whisper. Every crew member knew the alien wolf was still out there, somewhere in the dark. Rafe stood on the bridge, staring at the faint glow of the ship's running lights. Jonas approached him quietly. Captain, we can't just sit here. We need to know what we're dealing with. Lena stepped forward from the back of the bridge. Her voice was steady, but her eyes told a different story. I know what it is, she said. I've heard the stories since I was a child. I just didn't believe them. The crew gathered around her. What stories? Rafe asked. Lena took a slow breath. They call it the Star Wolf. It's not just an animal, it's a living weapon. Long before humans came to this part of space, there was a race called the Varkari. They were warlords, conquering worlds, and they bred these creatures to hunt enemies who could hide anywhere. Jonas frowned. You're saying it was made, not born? Yes, Lena replied. They took a predator from their homeworld and changed it, made it stronger, faster, and smarter. They gave it the ability to track prey across light years. It can follow your heat, your scent, even your voice, if it hears it once. The crew shifted uneasily. One engineer muttered, that's impossible. Lena shook her head. It's not impossible. It's why they still exist. The Varkari are long gone, but their wolves remain. Some escaped, roaming the galaxy, hunting for sport. Rafe crossed his arms. And this claim mark. Lena's gaze met his. It means you're chosen. The wolf hunts one target at a time. Once it marks you, it will not stop until you are dead. You could hide on the farthest world, and it would find you. You could cross into hyperspace 100 times, and it would still follow. Silence hung over the bridge. Jonas rubbed the back of his neck. So, you're saying our only way out is to kill it? Lena hesitated. Yes, but that's not easy. Star wolves are nearly impossible to kill. Their bones are harder than any metal you have. Their hide shrugs off most energy weapons, and they're as smart as the ones they hunt. A loud thump shook the ship. Everyone froze. It wasn't a strike, just a landing. The sound of claws scraping against the hull came next. Slow and deliberate. It was moving along the outside. Listening. The lights flickered again. Then the cum crackled to life. The howl came long, low, and deep. This time, it seemed to come from inside their skulls. One crewman dropped to his knees, covering his ears. Another whispered, it's calling for the kill. Rafe gritted his teeth. Then we stopped running, he said. Jonas looked at him like he'd gone mad. You're suggesting we hunt it? Rafe's jaw tightened. It's not going to stop. We have to lure it somewhere. We have the advantage. Lena nodded slowly. There's a place. A derelict war station from the Varkari days. It's still orbiting a dead star, not far from here. If we can get there, we might be able to use the old traps against it. Jonas glanced at the captain. That's a big risk. What if the station's defenses turn on us? Rafe's eyes stayed locked on the dark space beyond the glass. Then we die fighting. But at least we're not just prey waiting to be taken. Outside, the faint shadow of the wolf moved along the light's edge again. It stopped, head turning toward the bridge. Those burning orange eyes glowed bright for one heartbeat. Then, it vanished back into the black. The hunt was no longer just its game. Now, Rafe was going to make it his. Asterisk, the final stand. The ironclad cut through the dark. Engines burning steady toward the dead star. The derelict war station appeared ahead, a massive ring of broken metal orbiting the dim red glow. Its shadow stretched across space like the skeleton of some ancient beast. This thing looks like it's been dead for centuries, Jonas muttered. Lena shook her head. Some of the traps will still work if we power them. The Varkari built them to last forever. As they approached, Rafe gave the order to keep scanners running. The wolf will follow, but it won't attack until it chooses the right moment. The ironclad slid into the hollow center of the station, docking against a large platform inside the ring. Lena guided the crew to the old control room. Panels were dusty and covered in strange alien markings. She worked quickly, rerouting emergency power, one by one. Faint blue lights began to glow along the outer ring. Their motion triggered shock nets, she explained. If the wolf steps into one, it will lock it in place, but only for a few seconds. That's all I need, Rafe said. He began loading the ship's heavy pulse rifle with experimental ammo armor-piercing rounds taken from an old weapons cache. They're designed for Varkari war armor, Lena told him. Maybe they'll work on the wolf. The crew moved into position. Jonas and 2 others took high ground along the catwalks. Rafe stayed near the open platform, bait in plain sight. Lena monitored the scanners from the control room. Her voice came over the comm. It's here. It just dropped out of hyperspace. The station groaned under a faint vibration. Claws scraped metal somewhere in the shadows. Everyone froze. The sound moved in a slow circle, echoing off the station's broken walls. Then silence. A breath later, the wolf appeared. It stepped into the faint light, huge and terrible. Fur like molten silver rippled across its body. Its eyes locked on Rafe. The mark burned faintly under his sleeve. Come on, Rafe muttered under his breath. The wolf moved forward, each step silent but powerful. Jonas's voice crackled in his ear, almost in position. Almost. The wolf stepped into the first shock net. Blue arcs of energy exploded around it. The creature roared, body thrashing against the invisible field. Now, Rafe shouted. The crew opened fire, armor-piercing rounds slamming into its hide. Flashes lit the platform. Metal rang with the force of the shots. The wolf staggered but did not fall. Its roar shook the station walls. In one burst of strength, it broke through the net. A massive claw swiped, tearing a catwalk apart and sending a crewman flying. Rafe kept firing, every shot aimed at its glowing eyes. Jonas dropped a concussion charge from above. The blast sent the wolf skidding across the platform, but it rolled to its feet in seconds. Snarling, it's going for the control room, Lena yelled. The wolf bounded toward the corridor where she was hiding. Rafe sprinted after it, firing as he ran. He dove into the hallway just as the wolf lunged. The two collided, metal and flesh slamming into the wall. The wolf's hot breath hit his face, its teeth snapping inches from his throat. Rafe jammed the pulse rifle into its side and pulled the trigger. The blast lit the corridor in blinding light. The wolf howled, slamming him against the wall before leaping away. It stumbled back onto the platform, wounded but still deadly. The mark on Rafe's arm burned like fire. He knew this was it, the final chance. Jonas. Core vent. Now. Jonas hit the control. A massive vent at the station's edge opened, releasing a blast of raw energy from the dying star. The wolf turned toward the light. Too late. The surge hit it full force, engulfing it in blinding fire. Its howl echoed across the station, fading into the vacuum. When the light cleared, the wolf was gone. Only scorched metal and the smell of burnt ozone remained. The crew stood in silence. Then Rafe said quietly, "It's over." But in his mind, he wasn't sure. The mark on his arm still burned, and far in the dark between stars, he thought he heard another howl. The hunter becomes the hunted. The silence inside the derelict war station felt heavy. Smoke drifted across the broken platform where the Star Wolf had fallen. The crew of the ironclad moved slowly, weapons still raised. No one trusted that it was truly gone. Jonas approached the scorch mark where the final blast had struck. "Nothing left but ash," he said, his voice low. Rafe stepped closer, the faint glow from the dying star casting shadows across his face. "Don't celebrate yet," he replied. His arm still burned where the claim mark had been seared into his skin. Lena came out from the control room. Her face was pale, but her eyes were fixed on Rafe's arm. "It's still there, isn't it?" she asked quietly. He nodded. "If the wolf is dead, the mark should fade." But it hasn't. The crew began packing their gear. Rafe gave the order to return to the ironclad. They moved through the silent corridors of the old station. Every sound, the echo of boots, the creak of old metal, felt like it might hide something more. Back aboard their ship, Rafe took the captain's chair. Jonas brought up the long-range scanners. "Nothing on the grid," he said. Lena, standing behind him, added, "Don't be so sure. These things, they don't die like we do." The ironclad undocked from the station. The broken ring drifted behind them as they powered up the jump drive. Rafe looked at the mark on his arm again. It pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat. They made the hyperspace jump. Stars blurred into streaks of white. But halfway through the jump, the lights flickered. Rafe's stomach sank. That flicker was the same as before the wolf had first attacked. "Jonas, check the systems," Rafe ordered. "All readings normal." Jonas replied, but his voice lacked confidence. Lena moved to the side console. running a manual scan. Her face went white. "There's something else here," she whispered. Rafe turned. "What do you mean something else?" "It's faint," Lena said, "but it's moving with us in hyperspace." Jonas frowned. "That's impossible. Only our ship is in the tunnel." Lena shook her head slowly. "No. Not if it's one of them." A low sound came over the comm. Not the long howl of the wolf they had just fought. This was different. Higher, faster, almost like more than one voice. The sound repeated, echoing through the bridge speakers. And then it hit them. It wasn't a howl. It was a call. Rafe's eyes met Lena's. Her voice was barely audible. That wasn't the only one. It was a scout. The bridge fell silent, outside the hyperspace tunnel. Faint shapes began to form in the streaks of light. 1, 2, 3, and more. Dozens of glowing eyes, orange and red, moving just beyond the walls of reality. Jonas whispered, "They're following us." Rafe tightened his grip on the armrests. "No. They're hunting us." Lena's gaze was locked on the forward viewport. "They're not here for me. They're here for you, Captain. You killed one of their own. Now they'll all want the hunt." The howls rose again. A chorus now, filling the ship. Every crew member felt the sound in their bones. It was no longer just one predator, it was a pack. Rafe stood slowly. "Then we changed the rules," he said. Jonas turned to him, confused. "What rules?" Rafe's eyes were cold. "If they want a hunt, we give them one, but this time, they're the prey. Outside." In the shifting light of hyperspace, the shapes closed in. The ironclad raced forward, the pack of alien wolves following close behind, and the war between hunter and hunted was only beginning.